Season of the Witch has given us 3 brand new Strand aspects. You've got Titan's Banner of War giving fire teams non-stop healing. Warlocks and Weave Walk was so nasty the first week that it literally got disabled. But the third one, and the one that is actually getting the least attention, is the Hunter Aspect Whirling Maelstrom. Now, despite its little fanfare, that does not mean it's useless. Quite the opposite, actually. And since the launch of Season 22, our sandbox has shifted to create a perfect storm, if you will, for Strand abilities, exotic updates, and artifact perks that will give our Strand Hunters here a shiny new build that we are dubbing the Foetangler. Which takes us to our build. On your Thread Runner, equip Gambler's Dodge and Grapple Grenades. Of course, equipping Whirling Maelstrom aspect is necessary here, which creates a writhing mass of Strand fibers when destroying a tangle. Basically, it's a Strand buddy that rips around like a Tasmanian devil or a Beyblade or a Ryzen Shuriken, but it will track to enemies and then unravel them on kills, all while putting out pretty solid damage. Now, for the second aspect, we recommend Ensnaring Slam to let you suspend enemies, but the extra grenade from Widow Silk also feels really great here. Now, whichever aspects you do choose, your 4 fragments should really look like this. Thread of Generation, which gives you grenade energy when dealing damage. Despite its 20% nerf, it's still a workhorse and absolutely worth using. Thread of Fury, which grants us melee energy when you damage targets with a tangle. Thread of Propagation, which gives Strand weapons unraveling rounds after a powered melee kill. And lastly, Thread of Warding, which grants Woven Mail when picking up an Orb of Power. Now, moving to mods. Prioritize Resilience, Recovery, and then Discipline. Equip at least 1 Harmonic Siphon mod on your helmet, or one of the dual siphon mods from the seasonal artifact if you have the energy. And then on your arms, I want you to slot both Firepower and Heavy Handed. If you got more space, then do Impact Induction, which seriously improves grenade regeneration. Now, chess is all about survival, but on whatever resist mods you need. Legs we have, everything utilizing orbs, Absolution, Innervation, better already. And then finally, on our class item, we've got Reaper, Bomber, and Outreach. Now, artifact perks involving tangles start to unlock at the 3rd column, and you're gonna need at least 6 perk unlocks to really maximize your tangle potential. The first perk is Thanatotic Tangles, which gives Strand weapon kills a chance to spawn a tangle. In column 4, we have Refreshing Pickups, which gives ability energy when you pick up any tangle. And Communal Pickups shortens your tangle generation cooldown to just 5 seconds when an ally uses tangles you create. Now, column 5 ends with some bangers. We've got Monochromatic Maestro, which we recently talked about and reviewed. At the time of actually making that video, it was not synergizing with Strand, but Bungie has since fixed that. This will grant 10% damage bonus to weapons, matching your subclass after dealing ability damage. We also have Elemental Munitions, which gives us a chance of dropping special or heavy ammo from tangle final blows. Now, how does this all work? Now, I know you may be thinking this doesn't really sound very min-maxy, but there is some sneaky synergy going on. The heart of the gameplay loop is the Whirling Maelstrom. Shooting any tangle on the field will wake up your Strand buddy, but it's honestly best to just throw it. Either way, it will start tracking toward enemies. As far as damage goes, weak enemies will die almost immediately, unraveling and firing off tons of projectiles. Tanky enemies will just take constant damage, feeding you both melee and grenade energy. Even floating enemies like Shriekers aren't safe. This little guy will float right up to them and get to work. Now, creating and throwing these tangles fuels this loop with Orbs of Power and ability energy. Remember that tangles are created by killing Strand debuffed targets. Grapple melees unravel targets, which of course grants us unraveling rounds thanks to Thread of Propagation. Threaded Spike melees sever targets, reducing their damage output. Ensnaring Slam suspends nearby enemies. Killing anything affected by these abilities will create a tangle, which you can now do more often thanks to their cooldowns being reduced at the start of the season from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. Now, granted, Bungie has acknowledged that there's a bug that sometimes keeps these cooldowns at 15 seconds depending on how the tangle is sourced. Weapons and abilities, though, do seem fine, but hopefully this does get fully addressed soon. Now, I know the loop here seems a little complicated, but Hunters, that's why this build is for you. You're not just mashing your melee button over and over, laying on the W key. You gotta think here, but let me just say the payoff is big. First, you've got the energy gain from your Strand buddy's damage. Then, grapple melee kills will not only unravel targets, but they also count as both grenade and power melee kills, spawning Orbs of Power with our arm mods. Now, picking up those orbs not only charges your abilities, but also trigger health regeneration and grant Woven Mail thanks to Thread of Warding, which is crucial for a build this fast and this aggressive. Ensnaring Slam is also great at crowd control if you're in a pinch or you're just trying to juggle a champion. can, but that Whittle Silk extra grapple is a good way to keep the loop flowing. Impact Induction keeps charging your grenade, and Gambler's Dodge will charge your melee, with Strand Weapon kills spawning more orbs. There is a lot going on here, but they're all little things that add up in a big way. Now finally, Foetracer. With its recent rework, this grants bonus damage to weapons matching your subclass type after damaging powerful enemies with abilities. Now this is a 25% damage boost, more than the highest boost you could get from weapon surge mods, and it lasts around 10 seconds. Now if you're doing the loop right, you'll almost always have an ability ready to tag a powerful enemy, which in this case means any orange bar or higher. Sever, Unraveling Rounds, Suspend, and even just grappling an enemy all trigger Foetracer instantly, highlighting the enemy in red so you can tell it's working even if your debuff list is full. Now as of the making of this video, Foetracer's damage buffs are stacking with monochromatic Maelstrom in a way that's substantially higher than it should be. Now granted, I've had people come forward and say that this is actually intentional, and if it is intentional, that's fantastic. These are the percentages you're able to pull off with Foetracer and monochromatic Maelstrom. And we touched on this in our video about monochromatic, but this is an artifact mod, guys, that you should be using, especially for my folks that are also utilizing neutral game abilities in your builds. Now the one exception to triggering Foetracer, ironically, is tangles. If a tangle is created by an ability kill, your Strand buddy will proc Foetracer's damage boost. However, if a tangle is created by a weapon, either with Danototic tangles or just shooting a debuff target, it technically deals weapon damage and will not trigger the perk. Granted, it's not a deal breaker, but it is one of those things that I wish Bungie would let fly. Now, what are the best use cases for this build? Again, Bungie's goal for Strand is to be that subclass that requires high actions per minute. The Foetangler here definitely lives up to that description. It requires a lot of action and attention, but the ability uptime is almost constant, with damage output to match. And you see this build really thriving in crowded mid-game encounters, where there's a healthy mix of red bars to farm tangles and powerful enemies to charge Foetracer. It's also a very nice play for things like tier 3 altars of summoning. In solo play, this build requires careful attention and lots of proactive play, making use of every orb, ability, and champion stun you can to stay alive and charge your abilities. But with a fire team, especially an all-Strand fire team, this absolutely pops. Get everybody running communal pickups, hang out with a Banner of War Titan, feed your Warlock some Wanderers, and if your map isn't covered in tangles after a minute, I'll delete my Hunter. Now we haven't even talked about weapons yet that really synergize here. No lie, legendary weapons with collective action are a good synergizing choice here, as they gain a damage boost after throwing a tangle. So things like the new Strand hand cannon, Kept Confidence, can play very well. Also rolling with the perk Loose Change to speed up its reload. Now if you're into pay to win, the Final Shape pre-order weapon Tessellation also matches its element to your subclass, allowing a full Strand build to take advantage of Foetracer and monochromatic Maelstrom's damage boost. And before you ask, yes, the grenade eating alt fire also receives this boost, although losing your grenade on this build isn't ideal. So maybe just run Whittle Silk with this. Now finally, the GOAT weapon to be utilizing with this build is undoubtedly Quicksilver Storm. We've sung this gun's praises for months now due to its high damage output and devastating grenades. But keep in mind that it generates tangles all by itself. Now they're weapon tangles, so they won't proc Foetracer, but it farms ability energy like mad. And those damage boosting grenades are more than worth the exotic slots. So guys, there you have it. A perfect storm of changes to tangles that is just perfect here for my hunters. Foetracer is synergizing so nicely with our weapons, perks, aspects, giving you a fast-moving, high APM hunter build that is an absolute blast. While Season 22's perks enhance the build, I do believe that the core loop here feels great regardless. And even next season, this build is still going to be good. And even beyond that, when episodes start to drop. If you're interested in using this build, down below will be a dim link, guys. And if you want to share your builds, feel free to come by our Discord. We have an entire section where folks share out Destiny 2 builds. You can pick the brains of your fellow Guardians and share builds that are constantly carrying you in Destiny. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.